So, Maureen, you and I are part of a great group of folks working with people at the end of life and transforming the conversations around um, death and dying. And our values are rooted in compassion, education, and support. And I'm just wondering this last year, what feels most impactful for you personally or professionally that you'd like to share?
You know, there's so much. One of the things is it has really profoundly impacted me about the mental health issues going on in this country right now because of COVID, and the isolation. And, people, I'm usually very positive. I don't see the downside of things. I try to always see it's just actually someone who I am. I've not been a person that's been depressed, but I have had periods of depression through this. It started last summer, um, COVID, but also with the Black Lives Matter movement. And I realized I was really grieving. I was grieving the people that were dying alone in the hospital without anyone there. I was grieving my friends of color that were going through this racial injustice. And it sort of spiraled into a depression. And I thought, I've never really felt this way before. And to be able to identify it, it took me a while to think, why can't I snap out of this? And to realize, hey, it's depression, it's grief and depression. And it's okay to walk through this time. People just said, oh, you must be going crazy because you're so social and want to be out there. And I thought, no, I'm craving this inner time to do the self-care and to take some time for myself that I never take, and to reach out to others that I felt might be going through something similar. And then it hit me again this March. March and April, really tough month. And part of it was that I had a dear friend whose daughter was struggling, and she ended up uh, succumbing to her struggles, dying by suicide. But that whole journey and really going inward and thinking about how our mental health just impacts everything we do, and struggling through all of that was a challenge for me. And watching people I know and love struggle with anxiety over COVID, struggle with anxiety over opening up our country, and is it safe, and the safety of that. So there's so many things so many emotions I've gone through, so many learning opportunities, like learning to just be still and be quiet and respect that moment I'm in. I learned something, what's it called? Foursquare breathing.
Yeah.
On that, I mean, there were moments that I've got more into moments of meditation, which I could never really focus on, to be quite honest, because I was so out there thinking, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. But to think, no, this is what I need now. And but I had heard about Foursquare breathing. Is that what it's called? I think it's called Foursquare breathing. And I started doing it when I was feeling down or sad. And it just really helped ground me and bring me back to the present, and help me channel that sadness into the goodness in my life, and to know that it's okay, that we have to walk through the sadness or the depression or the grief or whatever to get to the other side. And so it's been, that has been my biggest learning, is to not run from it, which I've never run from grief, but I've never experienced depression really before. Maybe little moments. Of course, we all experience depression, I think, but not where it lasted longer than I had ever experienced before. And that to be okay with it.
It takes a lot of courage And there's a lot of power in naming that kind of suffering and calling
Yeah.
it what it is, uh, and not to stigmatize it. And you have the
No.
gift of working in healthcare and learning about the power of attending to mental health. And one thing that I appreciate about our collective is that we show up for each other and model this. We have
Mhm.
compassion for one another. We share what we're struggling with. We show up authentically and share what's helpful and provide support in a meaningful and authentic way that we want to cultivate beyond our
Oh,
group. And one thing I really admire, Maureen, is you reaching out to me about grief and really wanting to do something about it and taking steps to cultivate communities that can come together and share their feelings and be with the grief that they're experiencing in hopes that we can move together as a community. And I just feel really honored that I've been able to walk along this year alongside you in many ways, and look forward to all those treasures that hopefully will come out of this, but also, uh, yeah, the learnings, and keep learning.
yeah. I think that as long as we keep learning, even through the sadness, I think that the sadness of COVID can be overwhelming, but learning and looking at all the good, all the family time people have had together. There are families that's not been good. But looking out my window and seeing families walking together like I've never seen before, I just think that brings my heart joy. There's so many little things that I was talking to a friend about. Her mom died during COVID, not of COVID, of she had a cancer journey, but she suffered from depression at times. But to really get the help we need when we need it, and to realize that grief grief is okay, it's necessary. It can lead to mild depression, but really know when it's led to more than mild depression, and that's when you need to seek help. If it's just something that you cannot get through, that's when we need to seek help from someone, a trained professional. And I do feel so fortunate because we in our collective have just such incredible insight and wisdom from all of us that are there, and to be able to turn to everyone with our different personalities and our different strengths and get the support we need is so powerful.
It is, and it's so important to feel those feelings. Otherwise, that
Mm.
grief gets frozen, and we all know what that's like because
Oh
something
gosh.
else happens and it just is like it rips the scab off, and then we have a lot more scars. And to recognize it and not feel shamed or stigmatized or isolated with it, and reach out right away and see what works for you. I
Right.
know that different things work for different people, and there's no judgment, just not be alone with it. And I think that call out about mental health is a great one. Thank
Oh,
you.
thanks, Kathleen.